Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the November 20th, 2023 Harlan Community School District Board of Education meeting. So we welcome everyone here, the board members, good to see everybody. Tonight will be just a little bit different because we're going to have one meeting, a regular meeting, and we'll say a thank you to the folks that have been here and served long and hard, and then we will welcome and also swear in the new members. And somebody didn't do like I did the first meeting. I sat down at the table and they said, "Oh, you aren't sworn in. You got to go sit in the corner." So I did that promptly, but we'll kind of learn as we go along here. And so we want to welcome everybody, the administration and folks that are going to be talking to us. We'll get some good feedback here from some accolades, and so we appreciate that. So the first thing we'll do here is we recognize here on the Finance Committee, Scheckinger, Hazelton, and Policy, Albertson, Blatt, and Hertzberg. The first item here is to call the meeting to order. Since we have a quorum, you know, if Catherine's on that. The second thing I'll mention is that this is a public forum, and it's a good thing to remind ourselves every once in a while that we really do believe in what it says here, is that we welcome citizens to come and speak to the Board of Education. We serve the parents and the community, and so we encourage that participation by folks to come in and talk to us anytime something is on their mind. The second paragraph here, which won't read the fine print, but it says basically that there is an order and a decorum to, you have to come in a few hours ahead of time and request, so we do this in an organized fashion. And we also want to mention that due to the fact that whatever is brought in to speak about is not on the agenda, that the board cannot really discuss that with the citizen unless it's put on the next board meeting. And so that's the other part to this thing, though we welcome it, we can't talk about it that night. So everybody has an idea of what this public forum is about. The next item here is, I should ask Catherine, did anyone ask to speak tonight? Okay, then we'll go on to item C, to approve the agenda. I will mention that there's an item 3, consideration and approval of the sales tax financing proposals. And they, Piper Sandler is working on it and crunching the numbers, and we aren't quite to the bottom number. So I think we have to table that, right, Brian, until we get down to the very bottom of that. And so we might have to have a special board meeting in the future. So we'd like to probably table that at the request of the administration, if that's okay with everybody. And so any other questions or comments about the agenda? We will do this first board meeting and then we'll have a second one. So just so everyone knows. Any questions? Could we have a vote then? All those in favor of approving the agenda, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. And those opposed, no? Okay.
You need a motion for that?
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. Motion, thank you. I've got to have a motion first. I'm going too fast, Greg.
That's why I'm staring at you now.
Okay, thanks.
Too far away.
Okay, now we'll have the vote. All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
And those opposed, no. Okay, so the next item is discussion items D, and we'll turn it over to Dr. Jenny Barner.
Okay, so we have 2 presentations, and sorry math teachers, but I'm gonna let the students go first, if that's okay. So we have math curriculum tonight, and then we also have our FFA. And I will just let you sit right here if you want. There you go.
Okay. Well, hello. I am Mrs. Holloway, one of the FFA advisors, and we're going to tell you about our national convention trip that we attended October 31st through November 3rd. These were some of the participants, along with some other ones we'll see in a second. And so I'm going to let them introduce themselves real quick before we get started.
I'm Riley Scheckinger, I'm a junior.
I'm Katie Schmitz, I'm a junior.
I'm Ashley Chenender, I'm a freshman.
I'm Jada Young and I'm a freshman.
I'm Avery Mans, I'm a freshman.
I'm Lane Larson, I'm a freshman.
I'm Alexis Bass, the other ag teacher.
So we, like I said, we attended the trip the end of October, early November. The other students that were on the trip with us was Molly Swenson, Emily Scheckinger, Bristol Lowdy, and Michaela Jensen. And how we do this trip, and we've done this way for several years now, is we take a charter bus with some area schools. So those are the 4 other area schools that were on our bus with us. We just do that because it's, I don't know, it's just more fun to be with other people. And like the safety and the travel aspect of it has been nice as well. So the convention is held in Indianapolis, Indiana, and they're going to talk about first some tours we went on, and then they'll talk about the actual convention and what we did there, and just about the experience overall. So I'll just sit down and click them. Okay.
All right, we started out our national convention trip by leaving the school parking lot here at 4:30 a.m. on Tuesday, October 31st. And then we traveled to Audubon, where we met up with all the other schools, and we packed a charter bus and moved our way to Williamsburg, Iowa, to the Kinsey manufacturing plant. While we were there, we got to tour through the whole plant and watch how they assemble an entire Kinsey planter and Kinsey grain cart. And then we got to tour the Innovation Center and learn how Mr. Kinsey started his business.
So the next day, the first tour we went on was to Ozark Fisheries in Indiana. They raise goldfish and koi from the egg all the way until they're ready to sell, and they're raised outside in ponds, and then they're brought inside where they're packaged and then packed in a truck, and they are sold to different pet stores and Amazon.
Like you can buy fish from Amazon?
Yeah, you can. You can buy them from Ozark Fisheries. Yeah.
Why can't you buy fish?
Yeah.
Very true. Never thought about fish. I agree.
So then Umberger Show Feeds, we went there and toured their facility. They bring in all the raw materials for the feed, and they mix it, pelletize it, and then bag it, and they pack it in a warehouse, and then they unload it from the warehouse and put it in a truck to ship out that same day. And it's show feed only for mostly cattle, sheep, and pork, pigs, I think. Yeah.
So then later in the day, we attended the opening session and we got to hear the National FFA officers, the governor of Indiana, and a keynote speaker named Lon Bandana, and there was a record attendance of 73,000 members.
So this concert was held at Gainbridge. The introducing band. The introducing band was performed by Dylan Carmichael, who performed some pretty good country songs. Then of course Lainey Wilson, she came on. She performed one of her popular songs, Watermelon Moonshine, and then she also performed a couple of Dolly Parton songs. She talked about women empowerment and then how to be successful at a young age. And she even brought up a little girl to sing with her on stage, which was really sweet.
Then the next day we went to the career show and expo, and here we got to tour and just learn about the different careers in agriculture. There's over 400 colleges and businesses there, so there was a lot of opportunity to explore and see different careers. And of course there was free Culver's ice cream.
Culver's does sponsor FFA like over $4 million over the past few years, so they're a big, so eat at Culver's.
And then our goal was to take all the pictures of all 50 states. We got 49 and we couldn't find Maine. So.
Wow.
That's to make Dad proud.
Yeah.
Appreciate that. That was staged.
So then we ended the night with laser tag, and we got split into teams of 4, and our goal was to get other people out, and if you got out, you became the Purple Storm.
Alright, our last tour was the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. It's a 2.5 mile long track. We went around with a bus, not going 230 miles an hour like the cars do. After your race, you're supposed to kiss the bricks.
And then memories of a lifetime. It was
honestly really fun, and I would go again. We learned a lot about just different careers in agriculture and different colleges and stuff like that. And I think everybody else had a pretty good time too.
So that was our trip. Any questions for them?
Is this the first time that all of you've gone?
Yeah, they had to do an application process and then they're picked to go, and usually we try to pick kids that haven't gotten to go yet, so this was all their first trip. Yep.
Question for everyone, starting at you, Lane, was a favorite part of the whole trip?
My favorite part was probably the Kansas manufacturing plant.
The career show.
Probably the career show.
Getting signatures from other states because I had a shirt that everyone could sign.
Oh.
Laser tag.
Career show.
I figured nobody said food. I figured food.
Well, yeah, that's obvious.
A lot of overs, yeah.
And of course, that's where, in case football fans, Iowa Hawkeyes are going to be there in a couple weeks at Indianapolis. Just had to throw that out there just for the Big Ten championship. Go Hawks!
Well, thank
Great
you guys.
presentation. Thank you
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, we get 2 presentations tonight, so thanks math teachers and elementary teachers. I'm gonna pull yours up here. Okay, I will just introduce Steve,
Yep.
and then Steve's gonna.
If you want to go to that second slide, they can at least, I won't introduce them, they can introduce themselves when they get up, but with a little bribery, I promised them that I would buy them lunch one day next week, milk and honey, so it'll be a win for them. But the elementary groups kind of talk to you about their journey with illustrative math, their new math curriculum. Katie's going to talk about middle school math and how she's using our current professional development, which is centered on differentiation. And then the 2 high school teachers will talk a little bit about how they're venturing into a little standards-based grading into their program. And don't get too hung up on the standards-based grading, because I think later in the year, hopefully Dr. Barnett will let me talk a little bit about standards-based grading and how the current culture in schools is heading that way. So I won't hold them up, they're ready to roll.
I'm Grace Curran, I teach 2nd grade.
And I am Julie Jewell, and I currently teach 5th grade.
So we just wanted to talk briefly about our journey to illustrative mathematics and how we came about adopting this curriculum.
So it began a few years ago with we're seeing our math scores kind of plummet, and we were looking at a variety of different series to obviously meet the Iowa Core standards, and we had a template that we followed as far as like what is working well right now, what do we need to enhance and do better to meet the core curriculum. So there was a committee of several people where we went through a variety of math curriculums out there, if you will, and so we contacted other schools that had a variety. When we narrowed them down to 2 of them, and then we did some more research, and eventually decided to adopt the illustrative math, and then we also piloted the program. So then we got the program for free for the first year, and then we were considered in the pilot group. And so as we went through this, then we would give them feedback of what went well and what we need to continue to work on, and what could they add, and what things, anything from mistakes that they had in the book to like, hey, could you add more of this? We definitely need more of this type of thing within our curriculum. So eventually adopted illustrative math, and then they redid the volume, if you will, and then we got the next version of it.
Yeah. And we decided on it because we just decided that it meant our need for the rigor and then meeting the Iowa Core standards. So we've taught it. Julie and I were trying to think. I said 3 years. She thinks maybe more than that.
With a pilot one for 4.
Yeah.
For sure.
So we've had some time to reflect on the curriculum, and we do like it because it teaches the kids math concepts instead of math procedures, which many of us, at least at my age, were taught math procedures. Like, this is how you do it, and you cross out this number and write this number and do this, and as long as you have a pencil and a piece of paper, you can solve a math problem or a calculator. And so I like it, and I'm a much better mathematician because it teaches them math procedures and being flexible with numbers, and a lot of, it teaches math concepts, so they're learning the concept behind it instead of just, this is how you do it.
Along with that, so the critical thinking part especially is a lot of problem solving, so just not adding, subtracting, multiplying, dividing, but where do you use this in your real world life? I mean, that's what we need to relate everything to. As we get up, especially 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade, not only do you have to come up with the answer, you have to explain it, but then you have to explain it in writing. So we incorporate a lot of writing and a lot of explaining along with it, which is a challenge for a lot of the kids.
Yeah.
Along with that, the different procedures, there's a lot of ways to now multiply. I mean, most people are just, you set up your 3 numbers times your 2 numbers and you just find the answer. Well, there's a lot of different ways. There's a partial products way. Same thing with division. Along with that, I had to teach myself all the different ways along the way, because there's just a variety of ways, which helps with the kids to understand. There's a lot of different tools in their toolbox. So anymore, there's really not just one way to multiply, and there isn't just one way to divide. And it really truly makes sense for a lot of students, how you break down the numbers. And it's a lot of place value, which requires a little bit more thinking and understanding. And then along with it, it makes more sense to the kids when you break it down versus this is the only way to do it. So.
And I tell my 2nd graders, I always tell them, when you get in a car, there's a lot of ways to drive to Omaha. We got to get there the most efficient way. You got to find a way that works first,
Right.
And now you need to think, is this the most efficient way? And maybe you want to try your friend's way. They could show you a way that's more efficient. But it's okay if they're driving to Omaha the long way at first, because they got to find a way to get there. We like it as teachers because it does incorporate daily number talks. To kind of get the kids' brain going and to get really flexible, to be really flexible with their numbers. It also has formative assessments with cool downs and checkpoints throughout the unit, so you can see who's getting it or who needs to do some reteaching or some extra things with you.
And the number talks are very user-friendly, but they do a lot of not using paper and pencil.
Yes.
And
It's
that way making the kids actually think. So at the beginning of our number talks, it was quite a challenge for a lot of kids to be able to think without having to write everything down and get that conceptual part of it. So.
And it has PowerPoints for the student interaction too. So. Some struggles we have seen is no curriculum is perfect. We've noticed at a lot of, most all the grade levels, I think, that it lacks practice to build fact fluency in the students. So we've had to supplement in some areas with that, which we do during our WIN math time and other times. So.
You can move, through a concept too quickly, and then sometimes, for instance, like rounding is a standard in 5th grade. There is like 1 page on it. And it is very rare that a 5th grader can understand rounding with just 1 problem on 1 page. So we do, that's probably one of our biggest struggles is having those core concepts, but then they only have 1 little problem on 1 page. And then obviously through assessment we can see who is not understanding it, so we have those supplements ready to go. Because
sometimes it doesn't differentiate enough for different learners. Sometimes the assessment questions are unrelated to what they learned about, or maybe not strongly related to how it was taught or what they learned in the unit. So what we've had to do is just go through as teachers, and we always look at the assessments before we even teach the unit to see where the standards are, what we're assessing, and then we might need to make a few changes on it. One thing at our grade level, like they don't even have, it's a silly thing, but as a teacher it's annoying, they don't even have a space for the kids to write their name. So like you can imagine when 2nd graders have a space this big to write their name, and so just things like that. But those are easy things that we've done as teachers to adapt them and just make those areas for the kids to make it more user friendly for them.
Triumphs and celebrations. One of the best things I see as a 5th grade teacher is we have the common language. So now when you use that common language all the way through, when kids get up to me and I bring something up, they're like, yeah, I remember that from 2nd grade or 3rd grade. So that's been, just the universal language has helped a lot. Students are required to think deeply about math, like I said, and then, you know, just the other day, we related something and I said, my gosh, if you guys are gonna have kids over for pizza, you gotta make sure you have enough pizza, because if you run out of pizza, then people are gonna be hungry. I mean, so you just relate that to everyday life, you know, because we're dividing with fractions and whole numbers right now.
And I see at the second grade level, many of the students who are grade level or above, when they leave our classrooms at the end of second grade, they can add and subtract 3-digit numbers in their heads instead of having to get out a pencil and a piece of paper and cross out and regroup, and because they've learned the flexibility of numbers. So it's really quite amazing what some of the kids can do in their head. And then they have the opportunity to be involved in math conversations every day. So they're talking about numbers, they're explaining their thinking, and it's just been a good thing for those reasons.
Probably what I hear the most at conferences though from parents is, I don't know how to do this new math. And so I say to them, and I tell our students that often, I said, you know, if you go home and you ask your parents about how to do this, you know, get help for math, I said, have your parents show the way that they know how, you might understand it. And yeah, that's happened many times. Kids will go up to the board, my grandpa showed me how to do this, and explain it to the whole class, and the kids are like, and some got it and some didn't. But that child understood it, and that was the most important part, and he could explain what he learned. So it gives a lot of flexibility. You know, is it perfect? By no means, but you know, definitely we've seen our scores improve, and that's what we want, and most importantly, that kids can really think outside the box versus just the standard way.
Yeah.
So that's our elementary.
Thank you.
Yep.
Sorry, I will apologize. My name is Katie Arnson. I should have brought a partner, I see, but I'm blown up here. But I will apologize in advance. I have a 7th grade son playing basketball tonight, so I'm popping in to do this, and so please, you know, don't forgive my rudeness. I'm popping out of this. But so I teach 8th grade math over in the middle school, and so I was asked to kind of briefly talk about 3 different topics. One, just our classes that we offer in the middle school. So most students will just take 6th, 7th, and 8th grade math during those years. We do have a couple options for our advanced kiddos. So if we look at lots of different scores and different data to determine who is in that track, but they, as 6th graders, can take 6th and 7th grade combined math. So that year they combine those standards and cover those topics all in one year. Then their 7th grade year, they'll come to me for 8th grade math. And then their 8th grade year, they could actually take Algebra 1 for high school credit. And so then they're up a grade level, and then their junior and senior year opens up and they can take more college classes. So those are kind of the variety of classes we offer in the middle school at this time. I was also asked to cover our curriculum. And I will say this is not an adopted official curriculum, but last year was my first year, and I came in and did some research, and I found this curriculum called Maneuvering the Middle, and it's a very strong curriculum. And so last year I implemented that in the 8th grade, and the advantages to that is just it's aligned to core standards, so every single lesson, test, activity, all is aligned to every core standard that we have in 8th grade to make sure that we cover them all. And it also uses a common vocabulary throughout, as we're starting to adopt that now in 6th and 7th grade this year, which I'll talk about in a minute. It also has very high rigor. The activities are great, and they stretch our kids really well. They offer many activities, both online and paper-based, so it's a good variety that we can mix in this world of the kids like the break sometimes. It's amazing how many they like the paper, though, actually, versions over the computer-based, so it's kind of interesting. There's also a lot of videos over all of our lessons, so for kids that are gone, we easily have lesson videos that we can post to Google Classroom, so they always can take advantage of those, or parents can watch those if they would like to see and try and help with any homework. And then we also have notes available to them. They are fill in the blank. It helps keep them organized. I put them in 3-ring binders, or the students put them in their 3-ring binders, and it just kind of helps keep all of that information in one place. So that's been really great. And I believe we've gotten feedback from the high school this year that after that implementing last year that we've seen good progress, being more ready for Algebra 1 and with that rigor, and so that was good feedback, so we're hoping to continue with that. There are some disadvantages. It can be, again, kind of like the elementary talked about, it can be fast-paced at times. we have a lot of standards that we have to cover. So at times I do have to slow down just a little bit from what their pacing guide says. And there can be not enough differentiation within that for our lower level learners. And so I have to supplement at times, which I'll talk about coming up a little bit. But and I do that somewhat with CUDA software. We're starting to, it's an AI generated software. And so Mr. Mueller, I will give him many thanks for allowing me to purchase that this year, and you can input exactly what you want and AI will generate all of those problems for me, and if we need more practice you just click and here we go, a whole new set. So that's been I felt like Christmas time when I got that this year. I'm not gonna lie, I'm like, it's a new toy! So lots of fun with that. And so that moves into my last topic, just differentiation. And so this is a topic that we've been doing a lot in professional development this year and really focusing on. And so we've been trying to implement that in all of our classrooms. But in my world, in the math world, I just want to do just a basic meaning, and this is much deeper, but in overall it's just tailoring instruction to meet individual needs. And so not all kids are doing the same thing at the same time. And so for my class, I knew that would be different this year, and sometimes that's not fair is always what I hear. And so we started this year with this discussion, and I showed this picture the second day of class with all of my students, and we said, fair doesn't mean equal or the same, right? And so we talked about the difference between equity and equality. And so in our math classroom, we're always going towards the same goal, but how we get there doesn't always look the same. And we see that, I think, more and more with our students. They're all coming in at different levels, right? So we have, we just finished, I'll give an example on the equation. We were doing linear equations, and I have anywhere from students who are new to our school that didn't even know you could put variables or letters into numbers and mix them together. They're like, what is that? And I have others who have been through our program that are like, yeah, we're done with 1 and 2 step, we're ready to roll. And so when you have this difference in your classroom, this is where differentiation, you're not all going to be doing the same thing, and we need to meet those needs individually. And so how do we do that? And so just a few examples I have on my next slide here. So this is an example, just kind of some screenshots of the notes that our students are given. So the beginning on the left-hand side there is just kind of one example of equations with variables. So we open up, a lot of times there's some sort of discussion where all kids can enter in at where they know. And so we do that all as a whole group. Then there's often, you can kind of see this fill in the blank structure style to help them stay organized, just to help all of our learners, even our top learners really appreciate that. And then at that point it goes into, I cut out the middle just to save time, but there are leveled, we start with kind of basic equations and then they get harder and harder. And so an example might be sometimes for our beginning learners, if they've never seen this concept before, I do a lot of pre-assessments. So those kids that have pre-assessed where they have no idea what a variable is. So this concept could be really hard, and so we may break out. I co-teach, there's a couple periods that I have a co-teacher with me, so they may only cover the first section of the notes, and then we may break to small group with those kiddos. Then with the rest of the group we may go on, or some of our advanced kids, we get into things like on the right-hand side, where if they've covered all of the basic equations, they might go in and do some more advanced work with pictorials like on the right, where you're using modeling, or you're trying to do error analysis, or you're going into geometry and applying it to some geometry concepts. So there's just different levels that we can apply and be doing different things at different times, and that's really nice with this curriculum that I've really enjoyed just with those options. And I have one more slide. Just some other examples I was going to talk about with assignments, so ways that we might use differentiation in math. I have found that it's nice to have, I always do, I shouldn't say always, once we get to the end of the unit when the material is becoming more advanced, I have different sides of the paper, so we might go through a lesson and I'll do a quick check. I say, okay, everyone complete number 1 and 2. And then those that move very, very quickly through and whip it through and you're like, you got it? So I say, okay, you go right to the advanced side on the back, and they're gonna start those harder projects. For those that need, maybe they just had a few minor mistakes, I might say, hey, why don't you try in 3 or 4 and then see how that goes before we move on. And then for our lowest levels, they might just stay on that front side and say, and just work through that side. And so just having a variety of those things for them to do has really worked well this year. And so that's kind of assignment-wise how we kind of differentiate at times. We pull different small groups based on our pre-assessments, so we may be doing different things. I've tried a lot of activity days that come along with this curriculum that's nice, so we may do like scavenger hunts around the room. I color code those, and so they can have different levels of activities, so we're all working on equations, but they might not be the same level of equations. So we have the oranges, going on, and the blues, or whatever color, so that they can go and get the appropriate level that they need at that time. And the final idea that I am trying out, this will be kind of new for me this year, I'm going to try and include some more projects. And this is just more real world based, and so I'm going to start that this next unit. We have our advanced 7th graders, and I'm going to try this project. Again, it's just real world situations, so it'll be, they're doing a project, it's based on, they'll be researching out different plane prices and hotel prices and planning a trip somewhere here in the US, and we'll look at what those prices are like. We'll look at linear equations and just see how does that compare as your days increase, what does that do to your costs, and then offer them some vouchers saying what would be the better deal if I gave you this voucher and this voucher, and how you have to come up with what's the better deal and why. And so that'll just be some extension projects, again, just that differentiating for different levels that we need, and if that goes well, then I'm hoping then to incorporate that more into my other classes as well. So again, it's a learning process. It's kind of trial and error, but we've seen a lot of success with that, and the kids seem to appreciate given a lot of choice. Even sometimes they get to choose their level, and it's amazing how often they'll choose a harder level than what you think. And so it's been good, and we're learning a lot through that, and it's been effective so far. So.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Those examples that you put up there, what class level is that?
Oh, that is 8th grade.
That's cool.
Yeah, and that's not even the most advanced one. Yeah, you would be impressed with this, what these 8th graders can do when given the opportunity. So, yeah.
Get to your
Go
basketball
to your
game.
basketball.
All right. Well, thank you. Yes. Sorry, high school. I don't mean to.
No, it's okay. I'm gonna totally piggyback on everything you said. That's fine. Hi, I'm Amber Nicholson.
I'm Jenny Hamilton.
And yeah, we teach high school. So the first thing we wanted to cover is just kind of the classes we offer. All students are either going to take pre-algebra or algebra, and then they advance to geometry and then algebra 2, and then beyond that, we offer several college level classes that you can see there. Yeah. So, go ahead. No, you're okay. So I was going to talk about differentiation as well, and Katie and I have, surprisingly, that we don't actually work together very often, but we have basically done very similar things. I teach the pre-algebra classes here at the high school, so we are doing we have done a similar unit on solving equations, and it involved a lot of backwards planning. Like she said, everyone is getting to the same learning target, so figuring out that learning target and then kind of working backwards, how are we going to get there situation. It involved a lot of pre-assessment. I gave pre-assessments at the beginning of the semester just to see kind of like of the learning targets that students are supposed to have mastered by the time they get to high school, which ones do we have and which ones do we not have, so where do we need to spend most of our time or more of our time. There's a lot of student choice involved in the differentiation that I do. Who do you want to work with? What do you want to work on? So they get to like kind of choose worksheets sometimes or projects. Where do you want to sit? I let my kids sit kind of wherever they're comfy. And then how, when we'll talk about that a little bit when we talk about standards-based grading, but how do you want to show us that you are at this level of understanding? One thing I do that Katie mentioned, like different levels of worksheets, which is at the bottom there too. So there's scaffolded worksheets, which there's an example right there, in case somebody needs like a visual of what that might look like. So everyone will get an equation that says solve one of these equations, right? Addition, subtraction, multiplication, division, one of each. And then from there, the kids kind of see where they need to be. So if they're not quite ready for that worksheet, or they're really struggling to figure out that they have to, subtract the 5, this is just an example of my scaffolded worksheet where it kind of leads them through on their own. They can follow those directions and answer those questions and be more of an independent learner, which sometimes we gear ourselves towards the lower level students because we think they need the most help, but this allowed a lot of them to learn their own way, learn on their own, just with typing out the questions that I would ask if I was standing next to them anyway. So
And then I use a lot of self-assessment. So I'll do like an example on the board. And I will ask students, where are you at? Are you at a 1? Are you at a 2? Or are you at a 3? A 1 is like, I don't know what you just did, that was a foreign language. Slow it down. A 2 is like, I can do that. Or a 3 is like, oh, that was easy, give me something more. So they actually get to choose their own worksheets. And Katie actually came up with something we use in geometry too. She said mild, medium, or spicy. So I thought that was funny, so I borrowed it also in geometry and in pre-algebra. So yeah, but it's surprising how many kids will actually choose the spicy worksheet, knowing that they're not doing more work than other students, they're doing different work, and something that's maybe challenging, or one kid might pick spicy one day and pick mild the next day, because just different concepts hit them in different ways. So yeah, that's what I've been doing in pre-algebra as far as differentiation is concerned. And yeah, it's kind of flowed into geometry as well, so.
Okay, so I'm going to talk a little bit about what we're doing in geometry. We use a standards-based grading system in geometry, and that's new to some people. You might know a little bit about it, but the big idea is that we can break each unit into specific standards. So each unit would have like 3 to 5 standards in it. And at the end of a unit, students would take some type of summative assessment, usually in the form of a paper pencil test. And instead of getting 1 grade on that test, an average of how they did on all the questions that were on it, they would get a grade for each individual standard that was on that test. We found that this is meaningful for students because instead of looking at their tests and like, oh, I averaged 75% out of however many points were on the test, I missed 2 here and missed 4.5 there and a half point here. Instead, they can look at each standard and be like, oh, I was really strong in these 3 standards, and this standard I was weak. Maybe I want to spend some more time and energy reviewing on that standard and get some help on that instead of all my time and energy on things that maybe I'm already strong at. So we found that it's meaningful in that way. And the other big idea behind it is that instead of pointing out a test, like this question is worth 5 points, that question is worth 3 points, we use a standards-based grading scale. So you can see that on the right there. We use a 5-point scale, and the numbers don't really mean anything. It's more like the word that is associated with that. So you are at a beginning level of understanding, or you are developing, near proficient, and then the highest is mastery. And so we have found with this that we want their conversations when they get their assessments back to be more reflective on where they're at with their level of understanding, as opposed to like, oh, can I do test corrections for half points back? Or why was this minus 1 point and can it just be worth minus half point? Instead, we want them to be saying like, oh, I'm at a developing level of understanding. How can I get to the next level? Some confusion that we've had with this, mostly with trying to explain it to parents, is we have to take this scale and then convert it to a 100-point scale because that's how our grading system works. So that's the confusion that we've been continuously working through. Okay. And so with students, we've pulled up, there's a lot of colors on this slide, but we pulled up this thing called Bloom's taxonomy. It's a common framework used to measure levels of understanding. So that's that pyramid that you see. So you have the lowest levels of understanding, like remembering. That would be like vocabulary words, definitions, anything that you're memorizing. You climb up a little bit to understanding. So maybe you're like explaining or solving an equation or an application problem. And then you get into the higher levels, analyze, evaluate, create. Those are things that maybe you're now organizing information, or you have to compare and contrast or draw connections. And then those highest levels are like argue, defend, critique, design, author, create original work. And so we've pulled this up with our geometry kids a couple different times so far this year to try to get them to self-reflect on where are you at in your level of understanding, or what have you demonstrated? Because we try to emphasize that to them too when it comes to grades, that you might know something in your head, but you need to figure out a way to demonstrate your level of understanding. And so with the paper pencil math test, we tell kids we think we can give you an opportunity to demonstrate maybe up to like that apply analyze level, but it's very difficult to demonstrate those highest levels of understanding on a paper pencil math test. And so Amber's going to talk a little bit more about what those opportunities look like and the different routes that kids can take.
Yeah, so with each standard in geometry, we have a lesson, and then students get the opportunity to practice. And you can see as off of practice, they have 3 different things they can kind of do after that. So we'll go through kind of answers, and then they can decide, they can reflect whether they need maybe reteaching and relearning, whether they're ready to review for a quiz, or maybe they're ready for a mastery practice. So we give them the opportunity to maybe challenge themselves with the mastery worksheet. And then as we move along, we quiz over every standard. Again, students get those quiz grades back. They get scores 1 through 4, and they have a chance to reflect. Again, they get the chance to make corrections, so everyone's highly encouraged to make corrections, but then they can kind of decide, do I need to get help with those corrections, where that's that reteaching, relearning? Can I make these on my own, because I understand kind of what I didn't know at the time versus what I know now? And then they also have, again, another opportunity to pursue a mastery practice. And then by the time we get to the test, hopefully students have done those reteaching, relearning opportunities, those quiz corrections, and then we take the test. So with the test, students get those back, and then the day after the test, they get class time to, again, reflect and make a choice. They can relearn and retest. So we have a whole process they can go through. They make quiz corrections, they make test corrections, and then they re-quiz, and then they can retest. So they can show us again, basically they get a second opportunity to show us that they've improved their level of understanding. If they are at that proficient level where they can analyze and apply on a consistent basis, then they have a choice to pursue a mastery project. So that's where in a 43-minute period, we don't really have time or a chance to let them show us how they can create and evaluate using those standards. So that mastery project is a choice they can make to get to that 5 level, but those projects give them the opportunity to create. It gives them the opportunity to evaluate. So a couple of projects where they have to do the project, and then they also have to critique and evaluate someone else's project and provide feedback to each other. So just really showing that those top tiers of Bloom's taxonomy that is really, really hard to see in a 43-minute paper pencil test.
So on the next slide, we have some of the mastery projects just that we've done this year. So the top one, we were talking about parallel lines and different angle relationships that are created, and they had to design a town that met certain requirements. The first unit was a lot of vocab words in geometry, and so they were looking around their world and saying, where do these vocab words? So that's geometry in the show barn. Bottom left, this project was just turned in this week. It's a coding programming. They had to draw the code to make this cat to make an equilateral triangle, so they're telling it at what angle it needs to turn, and it's talking about the exterior angles versus the interior angles, and then we have a couple links that you don't have to look at right now, but if you'd like to. One is a proof presentation. A proof presentation. There's Chloe. She did an awesome job, but with that, so she's explaining a more difficult proof than what we put on the paper pencil math test that we gave to everybody. And then with this project, there was a second piece that was a critique. So they traded projects, and we coached them up exactly how this critique should look, how to offer feedback in a respectful and nice way that it is going to be received, and then also how to receive that feedback and not shut down when somebody's giving you feedback. And so that was part of this project, and that other link there is a how-to video that a student used or created on how to use a ruler and a protractor and demonstrating that. And so, and we also tell them that we try to give them lots of options for projects, 3 to 5 different projects that they can choose from. But we say, you think all these projects are lousy, we're not offended, let's write up another project. So if there's another way that you think that you can demonstrate your level of understanding at those highest levels, let's write a project about that. And so just trying to give students choice on what they need as an individual learner. And not everybody pursues a mastery project. Sometimes when they get their paper pencil math test, they're like, boy, I'm not ready. I am at this lowest level of understanding. I'm not ready to jump up to a 4 or 5. What do I need to do to get to a level 3? And so we'd rather have those students spend their time and energy on that retake process and try to help them self-reflect and self-regulate on what action they need to take as an individual to get to the next level. And then if they get to this level, then maybe they want to pursue a project. So just trying to make it individualized for that student. Any questions?
I'd like to say, Jenny, I was fortunate enough when I was at Avoca, Jenny was teaching for me, and we started standards-based grading down in Avoca, and she was my model. She went to like the WIC conference and presented, and had lots of people follow up with her on stuff like that, and she'll probably tell you she and I butt heads a little bit with the 4-point versus 5-point, but if you've ever argued with her or her father, it's kind of a losing proposition. So she's very persuasive when she argues, but I love seeing them go outside of the box and, you know, try new things, and Casey gives them enough rope that they can get themselves in trouble occasionally, but we love the things that they're doing. The differences between the elementary and the curriculum world, there's all sorts of canned curriculums for K through 8. There's hardly any for the high school. You have to go to a publisher, and if you like the text, you kind of go with it, and that's the way it works. But the thing that we're going to be working on next is we want the high school teachers to go visit the middle school teachers to see what they're exactly teaching, how they're teaching it, and then we want the middle school teachers to go down and see how they're teaching illustrative math, because that's something we're talking about right now. Do we need to expand illustrative math all the way through the 8th grade so that we get that common language and vision, and we'll have those conversations next. And if you look at our math scores as a district as a whole, we knock it out of the ballpark in all of the grades. So I know they talked about, I think they're into their 4th year counting their pilot, and their scores have went up, so that's a good thing. You always figure it takes 3 years when you implement a new curriculum before you start seeing the fruits of your work. So I appreciate all of them being brave enough to come and make a presentation, and very worthwhile.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I have a question. How does that, so if you're at the average or the developing stage and you're at the someone else is at the mastery stage, how do you grade that into the percentages?
That's a different day. What's one of the biggest confusions we have is it doesn't translate well to the 100-point scale. So we have a scale that like a 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 go into the grade book as like a 50, a 70, an 80, and a 90. And then the 100, if students pursue the mastery level, then they can earn that 100%. So that's been the biggest confusion between the two things. But yeah,
we've got a handout and a 25-minute video for that if you would like to check it out. But yeah, that's the tricky part, because at the end of the day, we do have to give a grade, and it's got to go in the grade book, and we support that. I mean, but just trying to get students to put their focus and emphasis on learning when this grade is like so coveted and valued, it just takes time. But so
yeah,
I think we're happy to share that with you too.
I think one of the best things about it too is that a student can be proficient. They can be at a 4 in one standard, one concept on a test, and they can be at a developing level in another standard. But we can easily see that in the grade book because we can see 3 different scores, which I highly appreciate. But also, like, a student can then maybe pursue a mastery project in that standard while they're also like relearning and retesting a different standard. So it really puts a lot on the students to kind of make those choices. Obviously, we try to guide them where we think maybe their time is best spent, but it allows for each individual standard to be like honed in on without just one overarching idea.
Yeah, I'd like to say, I always loved math, but I always got my worst grades in math. But anyway, it makes a lot of sense to adapt your learning approach to different ways people learn. But the slide about everybody being equal or getting equal grade, you know, that's, I think, maybe what Roger's, you know, alluding to. I imagine that might not be so good, giving everybody a B plus, you know.
So are you talking
Some people are good at math and some people are bad, which is, I'm one of the ones that aren't so good at it, but it's great if you really get it.
Sometimes when you do standards-based grading, like elementary, all does standards-based grading, so that's
Yeah, what does that
much
mean,
easier.
standard? I mean, there's a lot of agenda behind some of these words.
Well, it means that they understand this standard, yeah, they understand what this is, they don't understand, like, when you give a math test in geometry over
Sure.
this unit, like they said, it has 4 standards, so
So
what
if they
that
have
means
10
is they gotta.
standards then, if they get different, reach different levels in all of them, then the grade will reflect
All
what
of
their
those
average.
different levels, yeah.
So
That makes sense.
in our geometry, I would say we have it pretty structured so that if you look at, and you go back to the Bloom's taxonomy, if a student has an A in geometry, they are at the highest, they have demonstrated that they know the content at the highest levels, meaning they have done, they have chosen to pursue mastery projects. If they have not pursued any mastery projects and they have just taken a paper pencil test, they won't be at the highest level of create evaluate. They will still be at the, like a level 4 in analyze. So as far as ABCD goes, it falls down. Like an A would represent that they have demonstrated their level of understanding at those highest levels. So
how do you know
the
when to
grade
move
is
on?
still meaningful.
Oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
How do you know when to move on to the next, I don't know, concept? If you've got some people at 3s, some at 4s, there's a lot of moving parts.
Yeah, so we
That's a $1 million question right
That's
there.
the hardest part about
Very great one.
differentiation is when do you decide to maybe leave some students behind because they're not at the learning target, right? Like, for example, in my unit, all students needed to reach the point where we could solve a multi-step equation with distributions on one side before, that's like the learning target. So when 80% of my students are at that learning target, they're maybe moving on to something that's maybe not essential so that those other 20% of students can actually still focus on reaching the learning target. So that's like a whole different thing with essential standards and stuff, but
I love the passion.
yeah, it's
Do you find it
tricky as a
helping?
teacher to try and balance that. And we
That's
use our
hard to
win
make
win
next
time
one.
and
This
stuff.
is taking college.
That's the challenge.
Do you find this is helping them, or do they then have to go back into a different standard? Like, I know they can take stats and different things in college, so does this confuse them, or then when they get into a college level, they're like,
No, I don't. I teach college stats. I've used standards-based, so I teach college classes through Iowa Western. I've taught all of the college classes that we offer here. I've used the standards-based grading system with all of those college classes, not at this school, but in Avoca. And so it's like this grading system has been approved by, when I was doing that, through my Iowa Western people that look over me. But I don't think it hinders them at all. I think that it develops students' ability to self-reflect and then self-regulate and make choices as an individual on what they need to do next. And so I think that is like the best thing that we can do as educators is equip them to make their own decisions and to have an accurate understanding of whether they know something or not. Because I would say all of us work with students who they think that they are at this level of understanding and they're not. And so helping them accurately self-reflect is really an important thing.
Or even them knowing what they do well, or what they've got mastered. For example, a few years ago I had a student in 2nd grade, and we were practicing 2-digit addition. And I walk over and she's flip-flopped the numbers, so she's doing it, making all subtraction. So she just took it, the bigger number, and I said, what are you doing? We're doing addition. Yes, I got all the addition right the last few times we've done it, so I have that mastered, but I know I need to practice my subtraction. That's what she told me. She knew herself that she had to work on that. So, a lot of them know, and they just, I don't know.
Kids are really honest. For the most part, they really are. And they really know what they know and what they don't know. And
we want to help them learn what they don't know.
Yeah.
We don't want to keep teaching the same thing they already know. That doesn't do any good.
One thing you'll find with high school students too, like when we adopted at Avoca, when I followed up conversations of how things were going, they love the roadmap. They love that these are the things they know when they walk into geometry, this is what we're doing today. You know, some classes they walk into, they may not know what's going on, what's going to be asked of them that day. And when you have standards laid out, they know exactly what they're doing, and students appreciate that.
I'm glad I'm not in your shoes.
Thank you, Bird.
All right, thank you.
A good special day.
Yes.
Wow, yeah.
You're not good at math, are you, President?
One of my takeaways is this is that our administration is doing a good job bringing in smart people and good teachers.
Yeah.
People who are passionate about their work.
And you're going outside the box.
So what's my
I was gonna ask that my job too is still equal.
I don't think it is.
Like how many different ways can you get to the work?
I think that's right. Like some people have a math mind or don't have, they've said that before, so those that don't have a math mind, when they start the elementary, these are the other ways to think about this.
I can tell you a story that we have a student, we've had a student teacher in the last year who was teaching our 4th grade math the way we teach it. And she said, I was almost a straight A math student, and I didn't understand this concept until I used this material to teach it this way. Because it was so, the way she was taught even in college was algorithm, you know, remember this step, remember this step, remember this step. Well, you can get straight A by remembering the step.
Yeah.
But she literally said, I didn't understand this concept until I taught this lesson to this group of 4th graders.
It would be
Because-
interesting to go back and sit through that, because my era where, pen and paper, one way to do it.
Line them up, make sure they're in line.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Anyway, I just thought that was
Which might not
interesting.
have
She said she
been
didn't
Yeah,
understand.
what's that?
It might not have been so bad. I bet you can count a lot of cattle, right?
Right on the
Feed
speakers.
and everything.
Count the legs and divide by 4.
Yeah, that's right, what they say. Yeah, count the legs up.
Is that a thing? That's a saying?
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
Yeah.
What do you
Well, we
do if
say
you
it a
end up
lot.
with an odd number of legs?
What's that?
What do you do if you have an odd number of legs? Round up.
Start over.
Round up.
That's a good answer.
You got a bull in there.
Okay, one more thing, if I'm still, can I still keep going?
Oh, yes, indeed,
Okay.
yes.
Um,
I think we still got the accolades.
Oh, yeah, we aren't even at the.
We're at the top.
I do want to say thank you to all of the board members who are here, who are new, and then thank you to those who are going off the board, and we just appreciate all that you've done. So that's just real quick, and we'll talk again at the end of the meeting, but I just want to make sure. And facility committee update, we are, I hate to say this and jinx it, but we're a little bit ahead of schedule over across the street because the weather has been so nice and it hasn't been raining or anything. We are hoping to see walls go up here pretty soon, so that's exciting.
We think steel's coming this week.
Nice.
Yeah, so that's super exciting. And then we are getting
If it throws us off a couple
training.
of days, rain would be okay.
Oh, yeah. We are getting training on the lights and the new lighting and the sound system Wednesday morning, or Wednesday afternoon. Wednesday morning, in the auditorium. We're still waiting to hear from the state fire marshal, which will happen when it happens. So, but we're hoping in the next 2 weeks when we can get in there. Okay. Now you want me to go to student accolades? Okay. All right. Jeff, you first. There you go. Can you see it?
Is that we've got so many pictures I've sent over.
5th grade elementary library, STEM.
Oh yeah, the STEM.
Macy's Day Parade.
Macy's Day Parade.
That's what it says. High school STEM students to create a robot for Macy's Day Parade.
Yeah, well, they had this what they did was they had this, it was a coding lesson is what it was. So they had these little robots, they look like little golf balls. And so they had to code them, make it simple, they had a little trail, like what would be the trail of the parade. And so then they had to code it to do what you wanted it to do. So if you coded it to, like if you put 2 lines on your paper, they coded it when it hit 2 lines, it would make 2 circles. And then if it hit a green line, it might go forward 4 steps and back 3. And so they had to code it so that when they got, it would finish in the right spot on the map. So then they would have to measure, you know, on their little, just a little piece of paper, and they'd take a red marker and do this, and a black marker and put 2 lines, and then they had to code it on the robot so they would get from point A to point B on their trail. And so, yeah, I don't know who was having more fun, if it was the high school kids or the elementary kids. So, and then we had our first concert of the year. Always exciting, especially when you have a new teacher. Caitlin Feldman did a wonderful job. So she was brand new, she was nervous as could be, but she did a wonderful job. And then we have our Citizens of the Week, that's on the right. We had our Citizens of the Week over here, that's Josh Rollins and Mr. Mosier, the good Mr. Mosier over at he's our physical education teacher, and he got recognized for helping a very ill 1st grade student get through a very difficult time. He was having some flu symptoms, and it's just, you know, we always say bless his heart, Dean, because he's not a parent or anything like that, but he went above and beyond the call of duty to help this student, I'll just say that. So that student was lucky, so that's why he got recognized as, if you don't know, we do a staff cow, Citizen of the Week, and then all the kids moo at him, and yeah, so anyway, those are the highlights of the elementary.
So Bill is at the middle school game right now. Normally would be here and share these. So he's got his students of the quarter. So for 1st quarter, they do students of the quarter every quarter. So there's all the students of the quarter. And then we've got our own Bob here, the head custodian at the middle school, and the art made, and I can't think of the artist's name, but they make it out of, it's a glass artist, and there's a huge piece like this in the Joslin Art Museum, and it's made of glass and it hangs. So they made this, and it looks really super cool. If you're down by the middle school at all, go see it, because it does look really neat. They made it out of pop bottles and then in colors. It's neat. And then this is Trunk or Treat from their student council here. And then Casey.
This was, I caught this picture, I think it was maybe Halloween, or it was, because they were ghosts and goblins coming into the office here through our STEM classes. There you can see like that orange in the top is a flying helicopter drone, and then they also have, there was one rolling around on the ground. I think it scared Penny and Joy to death, but that was kind of fun. On the left is a math lesson in one of our special ed classes, using a clear touch board. She had, I can't remember what they were doing, but she had students going up and they were working problems out on the board, and students were giving feedback. And then on the right would be our last football game. It was chilly, and the pep band came, and we're dressed in costumes, so that was fun to see. Smart costumes, staying warm. This picture of Isaac, we put together a lot of clear touch board, the stands for the elementary. And I think he was the kid who probably did majority of them. You know, just one of those kids who loves to not have to go to class if he can put something together instead. So he's always looking for a project, or you'll just find him sweeping the shop, I think. So yeah, that was great project for the kids. FFA group, and then on the right is our IJAG state convention students, and you can see Zeke Christensen with the tie in the middle. He and Eric, who has the white shirt on there, both spoke at the state IJAG convention. And Zeke was actually awarded to be the IJAG president for the state next year. So this year he'll spend this year just watching and learning from the current IJAG president, and the next year he'll take over for the state.
That's awesome.
So
they both gave speeches in front of like
1,200 big speeches, and then I think the kids voted at the convention after speeches. And Zeke said he was the last one, and it was like a standing ovation, round of applause, and he got president for next year. So that's pretty cool that we're in our second year of IJAG, and by next year we'll have the state president. So.
Do you know what IJAG is?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So great things happening at the high school.
And then from the district, we just here are some kids working on robotics things, and Kylie has done an awesome job, Kylie Lewis, and she's gotten $15,000 worth of grants just to start up robotics and to do a lot of things for our students. She just sent me an email today. It's like, is there a specific furniture person I need to go through, because I just got another grant to get some new furniture.
Was it you and I met that lady? Anyways, there's a lady, we have her car.
Yeah, well, we have a furniture, yeah, so we'll see what if they can give us any, but we'll see.
Yeah.
So here's the two grants. So she's got a new team growth grant for a year. Argosy FGI is another grant. They got a NASA program growth grant, and then Cortiva AgriScience grant. And then their first robotics competition is in Cedar Falls in March. So they're very excited. We've never had a robotics team. And then we want to also say thank you to all the Clear Touch donors. So Clear Touch are those boards that are right up there. Hence this is a brand new one, why it had to restart earlier, so we haven't used it yet. But we want to say thank you to Farmers Trust and Savings, Goshorn Seed and Ag, Shelby County State Bank, United Bank of Iowa, Farm Credit, Kirkman Farms, the agency, FMCTC, and then also Essentia, because we just received the check from Essentia as well. So, and Kay Goshorn has done yeoman's work on this and raised approximately $64,000 in order to buy 25 of these Clear Touch boards. So we're probably close to 75 to 80% of all of our staff having one and being able to use it. They're very excited. It's awesome. So thank you to everyone for helping us with that. Okay, I'm done.
Very good. Very good. What's that math work out to? How expensive is one of them? $3,000-4,000?
One like this size is $2,500 with the stand.
And the stand, yeah.
I'm gonna have to step out for just a minute, but I'll be back.
Okay. Very good. We'll move along here to the action items here. And the first thing on the action item is the personnel report. See what Catherine has to say.
Yeah, well, we've got some resignations this month, actually more than we would like, but we're working on getting those refilled. We're gonna be talking about, one of the action items is to approve the early retirement notices, and those we have 4. Anna Rudy is an elementary custodian, and she that's not part of our early retirement package, but we still want to recognize her because she's been here a very long time. But Linnell, Sandra, and Ann are all 3 middle school teachers that are resigning. So once we approve those, we'll start recruiting right away to get those backfilled and keep going. Then we've got we usually don't have transfers, but we had someone that transferred from our high school kitchen to be a preschool paraeducator, and she's doing very well. So that's kind of exciting. That and as actually gonna start taking some. She's gonna take a paraeducator course. So she's just working on growing in her field. And then some openings. What we want to talk about is the one that's linked there. New English language learner navigator. And I'm sure Jenny will want to add to this, but right now Anna Gill's roster is just growing and growing. She's our ELL teacher, EL teacher, we call it that now. But we got 5 new students just last week that need extra support. I think her roster's at 58 kids.
EL?
English learner.
And she has one para now.
And she does have one para. We're recruiting for a bilingual para, but we're just not getting getting applications for that. And so we would like to, if you want to, it's linked now. We want to add this position.
Yes, and this doesn't need to be board approved. We just want to be transparent that it's a different level because it's kind of in between a para and a teacher. So we're trying to recruit someone possibly with an associate's degree or a bachelor's degree in either education that is also bilingual. Anna is wonderful to her families, and she does a lot of translation on paper for teachers. Like, she will get all of the teachers' stuff and translate. She also translates calendars. She translates for us. There's just so much work for her to do. So we've got a couple leads on people that might be interested in this. And we also may come back to you and need to hire a second teacher next year instead, because an average special education teacher's roster might be between 15 and 20, and Anna right now has 58 kids on her roster. So it's a lot. And it ebbs and flows. I think in the past, I talked to Brian, and there has been 2 English learner teachers here at some time, but sometimes those numbers go down and then you don't need both, but now we probably are gonna need 2. Anna does an amazing job. And the majority of them are Spanish speaking, but we did get a family that speaks Sudanese, and English is their second language as well. So it's just, she does a wonderful job, and we wanna keep her here and give her a little bit more support. So that will be posted soon if it's not already. And then I did want to just say one more thing. This women's wrestling coach, we did get the coaching endorsement, so that's
Today.
official.
Just got it
Just
today.
got it today.
So we won't go to wherever we partnered with
No, they'll
last
be
year, they'll
here.
be here, oh,
Yep.
okay.
Yep. And they've actually already started.
They've been practicing.
They've been practicing.
What was the last one? Okay.
Is that a good thing?
Oh, okay.
Yes.
That's a great
Yes.
thing, yes, yes.
Because last year there was a little bit of
That's what she just told me.
complaint about
Don't bring that up now.
about transferring him or traveling,
Yeah,
etc.
yes, and we don't have to
As
do
I
that. It's right
recall,
here.
that was a long time ago.
Yeah, it's right here now,
Yeah.
so that's good.
Cool.
Perfect. We
Questions, discussions? You can grill Catherine, this is your chance.
I'll make a motion to approve the personnel report.
Jade with the motion, a second. Joni, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. At least we've got the motion in there. Next, we'll go on to number
We
2.
got
The approval of the early retirement applications for certified staff. And so tee that up. Any questions? We discussed this the last meeting in detail, but
Yep. So the 3 teachers, middle school language arts, middle school science, middle school math.
and how many were offered? How many positions?
We had 7 that we could,
Good.
and the time has passed
So
now.
the budget man said we could do 7, but we had 4. So
3.
3. See, I wasn't good at math, was I?
Well, there was a 4th one listed, but it just didn't.
Yeah, she was a classified staff.
Yeah,
Okay,
classified staff,
okay.
not.
That's where I get confused on numbers. Any discussion on this item?
Later.
Or concerns or discussion?
I move the approval for the early retirement applications for certified staff.
I'll second that.
Second by Monty. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. Next item we have here is item 4, which we decided to, let's see.
Table.
Table
Those three that we decided to table. And so we'll go on to item E4, which is the approval of a modified supplemental amount for LEP instruction beyond 5 years in the amount of $14,439. And maybe Dr. Barnett could explain this one.
I'll go ahead.
Okay, Brian.
Jumping into bed right now.
This is something we do every year. Just to explain what it is, there's 3 different things that after the certified enrollment is done that you can have. We have 2 of them this year, and that's 4 and 5. This one is if a student remains in ELL instruction for over 5 years, you're allowed, they give you an extra weighting, and that's what this is. And it's formula driven, but essentially what we're gonna get is $14,439 worth of authority on this one.
And that's for how many
And
kids?
it's actually, that would equate to 2 kids, but it's actually.
Different
it's
amounts.
Yeah, it's a weighting that you're getting based upon the kiddo.
Okay.
If it's okay, I'm gonna go ahead and explain 5 while we're at it. 5 is approval of modified supplemental for open enrolled out, not on the prior year count. Now, just to make sure you understand this isn't that our open enrollment out numbers go up or down. What this is if you have a kiddo that is listed as open enrolled out this year, that wasn't listed as open enrolled out last year, then it's gonna count that kiddo, okay? Just so you, and it's a weighting, it's the same thing as the previous one. Just to give you an example so you can kind of understand it. Let's say you had a family that moved in, and let's say they moved for, let's go geographic. So let's say they moved to a farm south of Portsmouth, and they chose, oh, well, I think we're only a few miles from Tri-Center, so we're gonna choose to go there rather than attend here. That kid would be counted in this case. So it's kids that are open enrolled out this year that weren't listed last year. Does that make sense to you?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And the LEP instruction, that's English again?
That's an English language letter.
Okay.
Second language.
Okay.
Yeah.
A lot of different
Language English
abbreviations.
proficient, language English, limited English
Since I've been
proficiency.
here,
Or English as a second language, yes.
But it's also EL.
Now it's just
English
EL.
language.
Gotcha.
It just
You gotta
kind of
fix it.
depends where, they use lots of different acronyms.
But
Bottom line
basically
is we
this
get that back as spending authority.
Yep, it's
So
a weighting that
that's
we
what
get
we
back
want.
spending authority.
So we usually don't want to turn down getting authority.
You never turn authority away.
No, you don't.
It's the credit card limit.
Yeah, right.
Any other questions or comments about it? Or could we have a motion? On item 4.
I make a motion to approve the modified supplemental amount beyond 5 years in the amount of $14,439.
Second.
Second, that was Greg. Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. Next, we will take up this item 5 that's been explained by Brian already. It's the approval of the modified supplemental amount for enrolled out, not on prior year count in the amount of $54,395.
Since you said all that, so moved.
I'll second.
Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. Next is action item 6, the approval of the Bading number 1 change order, and I believe this is for the intermediate school, and it's in the amount of $6,861, and it's for door hardware, and maybe Brian would like to say something about it.
When it's something, when they had to go do the final specs, they actually had to upgrade something. It's really that simple.
Yeah. Questions, discussion?
By the way, to meet code.
What's that? To meet
To meet
code.
code,
Yeah. Yep. And it's not probably a large one in the scope of everything. Good things to catch early than later, probably.
Yeah.
Could we have a motion on that item?
So moved.
So moved by Monty, second.
Second.
Second by Al. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. Next, we have action item E7, which is the policy review schedule, first reading. So we'll open it up to discussion on that policy reading.
My only question was, did we have to put somebody in as our equal opportunity?
It's Bill.
It's Bill.
It's Bill.
Bill Mueller? Okay, that's new though, right?
Yeah, it
That we
says
had to do
appoint
that?
someone, right?
Well, it's been appointed.
Oh.
Yeah, who's
What
that?
I think what
Right.
they try to do is just put instead of putting a name in there just in case it would change, so it's on our website as Bill, and it's on Beds as Bill.
Gotcha.
So, yep,
That was my only question.
he does all
The
the
policy
boards too.
review committee recommends you accept it as written.
Very
How about
good.
that?
Motion by
That was
Al,
a first.
by Joe,
I second that.
second by Joni. All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
And those opposed, no. Next, we have item 8, policy review schedule, second reading. And this starts at 6:04.08, board students.
I did.
Nothing
we
different
Did, it's
than-
not different. There was a link last time, but we typed it all out for the discipline
Yeah.
thing. It's exactly the same. It's just typed out now.
I move to accept the second reading.
Okay, we got that from Jade, and a second.
Second.
Got that from Greg. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
And those opposed, no. Next item is item 9, the consent agenda. And any discussion on the consent agenda? Brian, I tried to really look it over. I didn't see much there except a lot of construction costs going out.
It looked like the Green Hills had a negative expense. I'm trying to figure out what that was. That's- We can get
Is
more
it
of
the
those,
lunch?
that'd be good.
What is that?
Was it their lunch
This is the lunch for the.
for Rising Hope?
It's like $85. It's interesting.
I'd have to think.
Well, we
That
went
was on
through
the credit cards. That was something that.
Something came back. Yeah, I
Something
didn't-
came,
I just-
yeah, that
yeah,
was something
it was
they
being
credited
facetious.
back to us. It was on the credit card, I was trying to.
Was that a debit on the credit card then?
Yeah.
Banks, how that works, messed me up on the debits and credits. I say that much.
I move approval of the consent agenda.
I'll second.
Second by Jade. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. Next, we have H, the adjournment, and we're gonna have,
You're gonna do it? Okay.
we're gonna have somebody say something.
Oh, first, okay.
Jen?
Well, first, I just want to say thanks again, just for the board members, and I just, I think Joni's been on for 12, Joe's been on for 5, almost 5, 4, almost 5, and 8. That's a lot of years, that's much longer than I've been here, and I just appreciate all of your support, and you helped, we had lots of new members come on, and you've helped us really work together to get everything accomplished, and I really appreciate just the fact that with the bond issue, you've helped us with all of that as well. It's just been wonderful to serve for you and for you guys to be my boss, and I really appreciate all the service that you've given to the district, so thank you.
Thank you.
Here, here.
Thank you. Yes.
Very true, we appreciate it.
Yeah.
Thank you. Could we get to making a motion?
I move that we adjourn this meeting.
Can Joe and I share?
Yeah. We'll let that second.
You've been at it long.
We got a second, whoever Catherine chooses there. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. Very good, thank you very much, guys, appreciate it.
Just so you always
Well,
remember me,
Oh, you're doing, okay.
I'm going to, I always eat, so you
Yeah.
I'm a good eater.
She's a good eater.
So I'm gonna, donate that to the board table.
Thanks, Joe.